It's been a long day. Well, I thought I put us back on, but I must have taken us out. I'm like, oh, it's been a really. I've been up since 4 a.m. my time.
Oh my gosh! And you're up pretty late too, because it's like 9 o'clock after 9 your time, right?
Yes. Well, I had to get on a flight at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the
boy.
morning. So yeah, so it's been a long day. But nothing slows me down. How are you this evening, sir?
I'm really good. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
I have to say, I love your last name.
Thank you.
Brewer.
Yeah,
I said
coffee. You need that coffee.
Yeah, I said the brew is getting brewed by Brewer. The brewer is in.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you again. I thanked you 100 times when we were behind stage, but thank you so much for coming on. I know you're pretty busy. So let's just get right into it. How about it? I'm very much interested in everything that you do, especially the haunted hospitals, being in the medical field since I was 17.
Yeah.
You know, I worked in nursing homes, I worked in doctor's offices, never a hospital. Mm-hmm. But let's start out with you. You know, we'll ask the same old, the number one question just to get through that part. But as to how you got started or when you got started, and then you just take it from there. Tell us.
Sure. Yeah, I was born in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, into the Oglala Sioux tribe.
Oh, thank you.
And for us, you know, it's just that very early concept of the spirit world, which kind of inform our early experiences, our later experiences. This belief that, you know, for instance, regardless of what the physical realm, those in the physical realm say is or is not possible, it's spirit which has the governing authority. So we always incorporate that into everything we do. And I think, therefore, you know, all the experience we have afterwards, you know, involve a lot of what other people might consider like paranormal or supernatural. But for us, it's just part of that coexisting with, you know, different life forms, most of which are unseen. Mm-hmm. So, you know, my uncle was also a reservation cop. So a lot of the early ghost stories I heard were from him. I mean, everyone in my tribe had a ghost story, a wonderful ghost story. You know, a lot of times my uncle would see what he thought were people like maybe hitchhiking alongside of the road. And then by the time he'd get up to them, they'd be either transparent or able to kind of generate their own light. And, you know, by that, he knew they would be spirits. But for us, like ghost hunting, paranormal investigating, that wasn't really a thing. It was, you kind of like left that realm alone because it could be dangerous or toxic to humans. You know, you didn't know what these things were going to do. And, you know, if you were in a place which was, had a lot of death, a lot of that kind of energy, that dead energy, if you had healers in your family, you know, there was a chance that you could pass that energy onto another person, almost like infecting them. And it wasn't just infecting them like their physical health. It was again, that spirit health, that good medicine and bad medicine, so that your dreams might be infested. So again, it wasn't something that you really sought out. If spirit had a message for you, it would certainly come to you, or you would get it in your dream time. Because for us, dreams were where we got like all of our messages, our visions. A lot of spirit visitations happen there. So for instance, like, you know, I celebrate Day of the Dead, even though that's not really a part of my culture. It's just another way to like honor ancestors. So this last Day of the Dead, I honored my mother, my father, my grandfather, paranormal author Roger Preddy, who had recently passed, and my aunt. And I had a dream about eating this kind of Day of the Dead bread. And I woke up before it was served to me. And I'd never even heard of such a thing. So as soon as I woke up, I'm Googling this Day of the Dead bread, which is actually exists. It's called Pan de Muerto, because I was trying to find a way to honor, those in my family that had passed. So you put you create this ofrenda with pictures of your loved ones, maybe things that they owned. I put this bread on the table and ate with them, shared, just thought of all these like wonderful memories we shared. I cried some. And in all my years as a paranormal investigator, I've never felt that presence of spirit so strongly in my life. So this is something I'm definitely going to do like year after year. But again, your dream time, it's something that we honor. I think it's such an amazing frontier that a lot of people just kind of like dismiss. They don't really explore. They think of it as just kind of like a download of the day's events. But when I got my Indian name, like in 1991, one of the things I got was a journal for journaling my dream time. So I've kept one, ever since that. I've had to buy others, since then because I filled it up. But
That's
for
awesome.
instance, yeah, like when I like an Indian name isn't really anything you ask for. It's just part of like this coming of age like ritual. So I think my grandfather noticed I was having a hard time in my high school years, and I just wanted to graduate and to like be out in the world, but I didn't really know what my path was. So, in the meantime, he's having these dreams that one of his eagle feathers wants to like leave his possession. It keeps blowing away in the wind. And then one night he sees it circling above a nearby lake. So he's walking towards the lake and he's looking down and he sees a set of bear tracks. So he follows them to the water's edge. And when he looks in, he sees the reflection of me staring back at him. So he knew eagle feather had to go to me, and it was time for my Indian name, which is Mato Chante, which is Sioux for bear heart. I have such a big heart, and I'm one in the family that everyone goes to advice. But after that, that just really kind of kickstarted even more a lot of experiences with, the supernatural, with like the paranormal. But even after we moved like off the reservation, like the first house we moved into was an old Victorian home on the outskirts of downtown Denver. For some reason, my mom put me in the same room where a woman had hung herself, a previous tenant several years
Oh,
ago.
yikes.
So my father worked the night shift. So there were a number of evenings where you could hear this woman crying. And the closet didn't even have a door. It was like just like this heavy fabric curtain.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, according to my mother, you could see this woman's feet like swinging from underneath the curtain. And there was one time where there's this very heavy cellar door that was left open. I couldn't, lift it. It was too heavy for a child. But I had heard that crying from down there. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't my mother. So I was peeking over the rim of the door, and this door slammed shut on my finger, which ripped it open. That was one of the reasons we left. It just became too like dangerous, but it just kind of left a scar, and it kind of symbolically branded me with an interest in how spirits are able to affect the living. Because in South Dakota, certainly there were a lot of lost spirits, a lot of people that died in states of like, maybe like agony or sadness. But once I left the reservation, I was seeing other spirits, which weren't so malevolent. We're always taught that our ancestors are always with us, these really kind of benevolent, helpful entities. But, once I got to Colorado, a lot of that kind of changed. And I found out it was kind of a spirit magnet. So my first like paranormal investigation was like at age 12, because my cousins had moved into a home where a lot of things were moving like in the dining room. So a lot of times I like slept on that couch. I recorded my first EVP there. It was the sound of like a grandfather clock, which they didn't have. But interestingly enough, the people that they bought the table from in the dining room had that grandfather clock. So just really back then trying to find out, how we're able to become aware of these echoes, and times when that path we're walking parallel to is just more visible to us in this physical waking realm.
Mm-hmm. This is interesting. I want to I have a high respect for your culture's I don't know how to say this, but like your culture's respect for the spirit world,
Mhm.
spiritualism, and how spiritual you guys are, and then with the nature and everything like that. Because one of the things that I always find is like when people find out there was an Indian reservation or Indian burial or whatever, and people like Hinsdale, for example, there's a giving tree, so we would go and give, gifts to the tree, and there was supposedly, an Indian. I don't know the story. They just called it the Indian massacre, and I don't know what that entails.
Mhm.
I don't know who was fighting who won, who didn't win. I just remember somebody saying that. I
Mhm.
haven't looked it up yet. Um, but I have to tell you, I have a healthy fear of it.
Yeah.
It scares in the Native American spirit scares me more than like what I investigate, Casper, if you will, or
Yeah.
somebody's grandmother, or just somebody hanging around, like
Mhm.
but it's a healthy it's like not it's a respect, if you will,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm not very, you know, like like I said, when we went to Hinsdale, they were playing Native American like drum beat music. And
Yes.
I feel like that to me, um, for your people is a very sacred thing. And I feel like that stuff tells a story.
Yeah.
So I was uncomfortable playing it outside,
Mhm.
only because I am not familiar and
Yeah.
I don't want to disrespect and I don't want to do the wrong thing because I feel like they are much more powerful
Mhm.
because they're so connected spiritually with everything around us,
Yeah.
um, that I don't want to dabble at all. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
There just has to be like an offering of some kind, like you're the giving tree, so or whatever that tree was. That's that's what you should be doing, and obviously an acknowledgement, that we're you know um, with any spirit, there just has to be that acknowledgement. We're entering into your realm. We're just curious. We want to know more. We want to advance on our spiritual journey. So if there's anything you can say to us or share with us or show us,
mhm,
so really, it's just that offering and that acknowledgement. I don't
yeah,
know if they're any more powerful. It's just that I think we're more conscious of the spirit realm and how those things kind of work and influence
yeah.
our life.
It feels more powerful to me.
Mhm.
It does, and because whenever there's that backstory of, and let's be honest, I mean, anymore, that's mostly everywhere I go.
Yeah.
There's some Native American type of, background somewhere,
Mhm.
and um, I I love hearing your stories and your of your upbringing and everything and how spiritual you are and your people are.
Mhm.
So to me, that just like kind of confirms a little bit for me that what I'm feeling
Mhm.
um, is maybe a little bit validated, on a spiritual level.
Mhm.
Um, and I totally get that you separate what you were brought up with as to when you said you moved to Denver and then all of a sudden you're seeing all these other types of spirits and paranormal activity. Like it is very separate.
Mhm.
They're two totally different things. And I
Yeah.
learned that,
Mhm.
recently.
Mhm. But I think also for you, you maybe you don't know a lot about it, but you still embrace nature, like the
Mhm.
different seasons. You love animals because you incorporate like a lot of animal totems. There's so many forces that we come into this world with who protect us and inform us and guide us. Nature spirits, animal totems. There's our whole dream time, dream spirits who
Mhm.
speak, who are always speaking to us. But a lot of us take dreams maybe like a little too literally sometimes when these dream spirits are speaking more of like a symbolic language. So it's just kind of like a diamond. It's just like multifaceted, and it
Yeah,
wants to be explored. What kind of activity did you have at Hinsdale?
man.
Mhm.
Well, I'll tell you this right now, and the girls have brought up an interesting point, but I don't know what it was. I think it was a bear that I saw.
Mhm.
But we were outside, and like I said, I was already uncomfortable. I almost felt like I don't want to say it felt anything felt mean or negative, but like I said, I felt that powerful, like we're watching you, and it just felt, I just felt it. But um the scariest thing that happened was when we were outside, and I I saw eyes in my flashlight, and they were taller, and they were out by where they had just supposedly they've just have um uncover not didn't uncover, but have found 11 unmarked graves on the property.
Mhm.
So I see this thing, and at first I think deer, but I had a FLIR in my hand, so I put the FLIR up so I could, because you can't see anything out there. You
Yes.
put the FLIR up, and as I was looking, it turned to the side and it had this full bot, like this full body, and I was like,
Mm.
"That is not a deer."
Yeah.
I was like, "That's a bear," and they were like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Right there." I was like, and I put the flashlight up, and I swear it looked into my soul. Like
Yeah.
it was like coming towards us. Like it was walking like this. I could see the eyes like moving with the movement of the walk.
Yeah.
And I was in the house within 10 seconds
Yeah.
with it, with a tear coming out of my eye. My butt cheeks were clenched. Like I was so scared. I pushed everybody out of the way. I pulled a dude run. I don't
Mhm.
care. I did it, but I thought it was a bear.
Mhm.
So the girls, there was a couple girls that had stayed outside, and at first they thought it was a deer. It was not a deer. I would put my hand on the Bible and swear that was not a deer. Like deers, are in the shape of a like this. This
Yeah.
thing was round. It was
Yeah.
round and
Mhm.
big.
Mhm.
Um, but they had said that as it started to approach the house a little bit, it almost looked like there were two, and then it was wispy, is what they explained it. The back of it was wispy. So then they started looking up stuff about Native Americans, and and they said they used to wear headdresses, I guess,
Yes. Yeah.
like bears, like the skin and stuff like this. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, no. I was like, don't tell me that. I was like,
Well,
do
I mean,
not tell me
you play the drums, so you definitely summon them.
that.
But it's really
See?
interesting that you would have that perception that would allow you to see an animal. By the way, hi Wes. So, for instance, because we believe as Lakota, so as most Native Americans do, that animals are carriers for the soul. So when my mother passed a couple of years back, like a doe walked right by her hearse as they were loading her body in there. When my grandmother died, there was a little white bird on the windowsill of the hospital that flew away at the moment of her death. So we really believe that those animals are soul carriers. And I mean, we're all attached to we all have some animal totem, whether or not we know it or not. Whether these are just like a favorite animal we've always liked for whatever reason, whether these are animals that we see synchronistically in our waking life every day, or just like animals that we dream about, that we're more, that we resonate with. These are just animals that come to imbue us. For instance, like if we see like an eagle, we have that gift of that higher sight, that higher perception.
Mhm.
So, you might want to think about what kind of animals, you see in nature, because these are your animal totems. Like one of mine is the bat, which is perfect for a ghost hunter because I'm in the dark a lot. And
Mhm.
it's all about like echolocation and finding your way in the dark. Like night is such an alive time for me, and I'm sure for you as a paranormal investigator also. But I remember once my partner in crime, James Manda, who's the other half of Future Ghost, which is my paranormal investigation team, he came to me once because he didn't know what his animal totem was. And I was like, well, just ask it, ask it and see what you dream. So he did. And sure enough, that night he dreamt of this jaguar. And, he's telling me this the next day. I was like, oh my gosh, what a powerful totem. What did you do? And he's like, well, I opened the front door and it's on our front lawn and it's just this huge jaguar. And I'm thinking, if it was me, I would have like dropped to my knees, thank you for appearing to me. Is there a message you want me to have? And he slams the door on it, because he's just scared. It's like this. So just like spirits, like this animal that you saw, this animal spirit, they don't really mean to be scary. It's just we don't really know enough about them.
Oh,
Um,
they make fun of me. I was like, listen, if I ever see one of you guys running, I'm
yeah.
gonna run and I'll ask questions later. But I was like, I was legit telling him like, I was like, that's a fucking bear. I was
Yeah.
like, it's covered. Like the second time I put the flashlight up and I saw its eyes and it was like walking, it was like doing this, like I could see the eyes, and you
Yeah.
see like I it was like it went And I was like, oh, boom, right into the door. Like,
Yeah,
right,
well,
I ran in.
there's a lot of shape shifting that occurs too, um, with animals and those kind of types of like soul carriers. I live where I live in Colorado Springs. Like the Four Corners area is very popular, but it's a place where there's a lot of legends, and they believe that there is a portal down there, some kind of like rift between our world and the spirit world. So a lot of things they see down there are animals. It sounds funny, but there are some reports of people driving late at night, a car will pass them and it might have been like a bear driving that car.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, no, no. No, no. So Kim saying it was hysterical. Kim was one of the ones that was there that
Mhm.
night when I almost saw the bear. But I see what you're saying. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I mean, there's been, I've never, I know that I've never seen anything like that before. Whether it's
Yeah.
whatever it was, a
Mhm.
bear, whatever. When that second time that I saw the eyes, it was
Mhm.
just like I just felt, I don't know. It was like this, and I was like, out. I was like, I
Yeah.
gotta run. Fight or flight. I'm flighting. I'm out.
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know?
obviously you want to pay attention to that, your intuition, your own instincts, because those are going to keep you safe. But again, as investigators, sometimes it's hard to separate that fear,
Yeah.
from, like a lot of choices. Any choice I make in life, I'm always trying to say, is this like a fear-based choice, or is this an informed choice? How does this feel to me? A lot of it's just, well, this person is so intuitive. This person is so um, psychically aware. It's, we're all born with that. That's another thing as Native Americans that we're taught. We have these extra senses that again most people just kind of dismiss. um, and it's these voices that are always informing us, like, are you really happy with your job? Are you really happy with your mate? A lot of times, we don't have time for that. We don't want to hear those things. And then yet later, then it's like we really regret not listening to that. Even if it's
Right.
just those little voices, should have turned right or left or whatever it is.
Mhm. I do it all the time. I'm like, you
Yeah.
know? Um, so I do have a question though, like how was your family supportive when you started telling them like, listen, I am experiencing these other things and they're not bad?
Oh yeah. I mean, everybody had a story. And that was the great thing, was that and they weren't all these wonderful benevolent stories of ancestors. A lot of them were very, very horrifying. So I mean, and there were always elders present. If there was a spirit that kept coming to us and we didn't know why, or a lot of times spirits would come to us in our dream time, because that barrier between the astral and the land of the dead was really, really thin. So if you were going to be visited by a ghost, it would more likely be in your dream time and not in the physical world. Again, around like the Day of the Dead, like I dreamt of my father, my sister dreamt of my father. So usually, if I have a visitation, I'll call my sister up, and he'll have visited her, as well, just kind of making the rounds. But it wasn't really until like Poltergeist came out, like in what, like 1982, like Steven Spielberg, Tobe Hooper's
Yeah.
Poltergeist, that really we felt we could talk to other families, kind of like opened up a dialogue. Because a lot of this we just kind of kept to ourselves. It's not something we really shared. I looked really different growing up anyway. I was very kind of like ethnic, kind of androgynous. People either thought I was like Asian or Hispanic, or they didn't really know what I was. This kind of little dark skinned boy that loved reading ghost stories all the time. So, as it was, I didn't want to be alienated any further. So, those things we talked about a lot in our family. We just didn't really share a lot with other people.
Yeah. So that's well, yeah, because you said that your upbringing or your culture was that the paranormal stuff was bad, or that the spirit communication was not, they weren't good spirits, right?
It's not just not something like you really like pursued. Like now you have people that just go out, every week, but that's kind of like what I'm doing. But it's more, like a lot of people, they just, they're capturing like photos or EVPs or whatever it is, but they're not really giving anything or like leaving anything. A lot of people, they don't really know how to kind of like bless an area or, help any souls. There's like a lot of locations that don't allow like what we do is like smudge, like lighting like sage, cedar, sweetgrass, these things to kind of like balance the energy out. A lot of people don't do that because they don't want to lose any of that paranormal activity. You know, that's how they make their bucks, you know, getting people in and doing these tours and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that, you know. And then also, I would think that because a lot of people are misinformed about that. You know, they automatically think that if somebody comes in and blesses a location and sages it, that there was some negative demonic spirit there, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times the places don't want that to get out,
Uh-huh.
because then they're afraid that people won't come, whether it be historic wise or whether it be paranormal wise, you know, like they think that maybe that's just, you know, bad
Mhm.
information to be put out there, you know?
Yeah.
And again, you have some locations that promote that
Mhm.
because, you know, everybody sees what they see on TV. Everything's a demon.
Yeah. Well, it's not just like smudge is like this magic, you know, sage is this
Right,
magic wand.
right, right.
It's, you know, we've been to locations where spirits are always going to be there. That's just their home. You know, when I moved to Manitou Springs at the base of Pikes Peak, where America the Beautiful was written, it's just a really sacred area. There was a lot of like Utes in this area, but I was hearing about these caves where the Utes believed was one of the entrances to the spirit world light, and an entrance to the underworld. You know, there's a lot of associations with native cultures and caves where they believe that these are entrances to the underworld. But I wanted to experience this for myself, just as a conscious thinking person. And we went down. We got a lot of pictures,
You weren't
EVPs, all of
scared?
these. A lot of like underground, like crystals and water, and all of these things. I think, you know, helping, you know, all these special properties, these unique properties. But there really was. They really did believe that there was a portal down there.
And you weren't
And
scared?
no, I mean, I felt so safe because, again, just my connection to like earth and nature. It was like being kind of like in Gaia's womb. I don't know. I know that sounds really gross or tacky or whatever, but I was so safe underground, you know, just with
See,
only,
I love nature and I love nature, all that stuff. Like I love it. But I'm afraid of caves.
yeah. Yeah, this place was just, I felt the sacredness. You know, they had found like Ute ceremonial objects there. The caves were actually haunted by the original caretaker and his wife, Georgia Nellie Schneider. And so the experiences, we were able to interview everybody, but I found the most interesting experiences were the people that worked like in the gift shop, where they might get tapped on the shoulder, or like these swinging doors that would open and close. There's like an emergency call box, so if someone's trapped down there, you know, there's this phone that's always on that can hear what's going on. So a lot of times they hear voices and stuff. But again, it wasn't anything like scary. Well, maybe not scary to myself, but not anything really malevolent. These were just, that's where they lived. They honeymooned in these caves. There was like a lot of odd experiences there. For instance, some of the tour guides were telling us some of the things that they would see. Um, these kind of misty shapes that were the same like color and intensity of like a glow stick that
Hmm.
would come, different orbs. Like a lot of times tour guides would be giving a tour and they'd be rehearsing their spiel, and people would start like looking above them, and they'd find like these red orbs above their head. And I
Wait,
knew
what?
actually two cops, like in
Wait, what?
Manitou,
What is it?
these red orbs.
Oh,
Were,
orb. Like you said worms. I'm like,
oh no,
ugh. I'm like,
well,
oh
I'm
my
sure
God, I
they're
would
down
run
there
out
too.
of there.
But it was just, you know, for us, it was like really fascinating. Like our experience there ended up on an episode of like My Ghost Story in like 2013 on
Mhm.
the Biography Channel. So we were flown out to LA. We did our interview there. Like a cameraman flew back, and we filmed in the caves from like 12 in the afternoon to like 9 at night. We were down underground the entire time
Wow.
and got even more like evidence that time. I
Now,
don't like
what about
using the
with
word
the
evidence,
like
but
the oxygen and stuff like that? Like they like was that like you guys
oh
were
no,
down?
there's plenty of oxygen down there. There's just not a lot of light. You know, you really have to. The tour we were taking was the haunted lantern tour, and they just send you in there with like an old kerosene lantern. And there's this one part during the tour where you blow your flame out, and you're just
Oh,
in
no.
complete blackness. You know, and you don't make any noises. And those were the times where I was trying to record EVPs because there was like no one talking. It was just like a group of like maybe 4 or 5 people, but just a really sacred area. You know,
Yeah.
so
I have a
was
friend. the Arizona treasure hunter, he goes into caves in Arizona deserts, and he does have paranormal experiences and stuff like that while he's in there.
Oh
I
yes.
mean, I, you won't catch me. No, no, no. I'll be the lookout. I'll stand outside for you. Well, maybe I
Yeah.
don't want to do that either. Uh, Wes is in Disneyland, but he is joining us. I
Mhm.
thank you. But
He's a,
he wants to know what your thoughts are about the Sasquatch. Is it a spiritual being that physically manifests itself, or is it something different?
there's actually a Sundance, which is similar to like a powwow, but you do this like Sundance. You know, some cultures, some like natives are kind of like they're pierced through their chest and they're hung
Mhm.
up, because it's like if we're giving everything, if everything that we have in our life is creators, you know, what can we give to creator that isn't already creators? And that's like our time. That's, you know, like for instance, these dances that are done when it's really really hot, when you're just exhausted, you have to keep going and going and going. You know, you're giving all this to creator. You know, you're showing creator, I'm making this time for you, I'm going through this pain for you. And there was a Sundance where they had seen Sasquatch, which, you know, we believe they exist in a different kind of like dimension, which is superimposed with you know, for like us physically, it would be underground, like underdwellers. And
Okay.
sometimes they kind of like lose their way, and you see them like up top, and they roam around for a while until they find their way back down. But these are things that can like disappear at will. They have a lot of properties. You know, again, you know, you think of animals and the different ways that animals can camouflage themselves. It's just the same thing with this, whatever you want to call it. You know, for us, there's a Sioux word. I don't remember how it's pronounced, but the translation was the old man like in the mountain. They're just this very, very old race. They've always been here, and they're very smart. But again, they have these properties um, as far as like camouflage. Um, but again, that's not something that we really approach, or you know, we leave that realm alone because we don't know if there's like any danger. You know, there was always a thought that maybe one of these things can take you down to their realm, and then, you know, how would you leave? But they're usually seen in areas where there's kind of like a natural collapse of this electromagnetic barrier, you know, which, you know, you think during Halloween when the barriers kind of come down, and you know, spirit visitation and sightings are more prevalent. It's that kind of energy, you know. So it's more in places where there's sightings of other things, whether that's spirits or UFOs, you know, areas that are very high in electromagnetic energy. But it's again something that we just left alone and respected them, you know. So we believe that they're real. They've always existed. I've heard one, you know, but I've never seen one with my own eyes. I've seen videos. Uh, there was one, um, I believe, like late in the summer, from South Dakota, where they recorded one. I think it was eating at night, but again, they didn't approach it. You know, it's just something that they
Yeah.
respect, from
Yeah.
afar.
Oh yeah. No, I wouldn't approach it. No
Yeah,
way. You saw how fast that run when I thought I saw a bear. I was out. Those
yeah,
they're even bigger, supposedly, right?
yeah.
Um. All right. So let's talk about the haunted hospitals thing
Mhm.
for sure. I want to just I'm very interested in it because you know I have been in the medical field my entire career,
Mhm.
and I never wanted to work at a hospital
Yeah.
ever.
Mhm.
Um, so how did you get into doing the haunted hospitals?
Well, my mother worked in a hospital, and it was the same hospital where my grandmother had died.
Hmm.
So there was just a lot of energy there, and other people we knew too. It was, you know, it was in Thornton, Colorado. You know, back, you know, now, you know, everything has expanded so much, but it was just a smaller city back then. So we knew a lot of people. But one of the stories, you know, my mom told the best ghost stories. And I loved when she would come home from work and tell me the latest like spirit visitations or things they'd seen. But there was a pool room where they did like a lot of like hydrotherapy. And there was, I think it was neglect or something, but there was senior citizen that had drowned in that pool. So they just closed it off completely, um, and every room has kind of like this certain number, so they could call up to that front desk. So there was someone that kept calling from that pool room even though it had been closed off, and it was like an emergency code, like they were still like in a state of emergency.
Oh, wow.
She had someone go in and kind of do like a soul rescue, just in case there was a soul stuck there. But more often than not, it was just like a lot of residual, energy, the manner in which people passed, like in these rooms, sometimes whether it was like a heart attack or that maybe they weren't ready to go, is that kind of like energy. So I was always interested in hauntings and hospitals. And I, like after my ghost story, I did like most terrifying places in America. And then I used to live down the street from a park where a plane had crashed in 1991, a 737, which killed everyone on board. And at first they thought it was a faulty rudder, or no, like really bad wind shear. It was a very windy day. But then two other planes had troubles, like another plane had crashed because of this faulty rudder, which I think that time killed like 131 people.
I'm glad we're
So,
having this conversation after I flew today.
oh
Just
yes, 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 yes. But
go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
they're thinking like that a lot of the hauntings were happening because these spirits were left kind of like they were left behind to warn other people that this wasn't a wind shear. Was the result of a faulty rudder on this plane that was going to cause two more accidents.
Oh,
So by
wow.
the third time this happened, they, it was this rudder, and they took care of that problem. But there's a lot of people that lived, including like James, a future ghost who was home when this crash happened. He thought an earthquake was happening, but a lot of people in that area had experienced hauntings. So when I moved there, like in, I think it was like 2006, I interview people. Like I knew this woman that would like jog there at night, and a lot of times she felt like she didn't go there like after dark, because even at dusk she would feel like what she thought were people like rushing past her.
Mm.
So they built this like memorial gazebo with a plaque, like a memorial with like this bronze plaque with all the names. So we went one evening, and I was just reciting all the names off the plaque as a show of respect.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the lights outside starts like flashing, and it's just not like a motion sensitive light. It's like this was almost like Morse code. We started hearing whispers, like seeing weird shadows. So that story ended up on Scariest Night of My Life. And then from there, I was invited on to like Paranormal 911, Paranormal Nightshift, like haunted hospitals. So from there, it just kind of like took off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it really was just those, again, those experiences, I had, just being very conscious of that realm.
Yeah.
Um, and for haunted hospitals, especially, there was a lot I could draw on from my mother and things that she had experienced working on a hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, you do experience some things. I mean, I was put into some situations just 17, 18 years old, my first time ever working in a nursing home. It's like
Mhm.
my first week there, we're short staffed, and somebody passed.
Yeah.
And the girl's like, "Listen, I can get these people up into the dining room quicker than you can. So can you go clean her up?" And I'm like, "Wait, what? I'm sorry."
Mhm.
So I had to go in there, and this woman that had just passed away,
Mhm.
and we had to clean them up and everything. And when I turned her over, her one eye opened and this noise came out of her mouth.
Oh my
Right.
God.
And I freaked out, ran out of there, went to the nurse. I'm like, she's not dead. I'm like, she just opened up her eye and like made this noise. And she said, no, 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 honey, when people pass away, sometimes reflexes and
Yeah.
stuff, you know, and you moved her. So when you moved her, and I said, oh my gosh, was that her spirit leaving her body? Was that the noise I heard? And she was like, no. She was like, it probably was just like last breath of air when
Yeah.
and it came out and I'm like, I am never doing that by myself ever again,
Yeah. Mhm.
ever,
Mhm.
so we would open up windows. Everybody has their belief systems. You know what I mean? When
Yes.
caring for somebody in the afterlife, whether they're just passing,
Mhm.
or has already been passed. You know, everybody has their own thing. So how do you, when you go in to maybe help people, or do you do that? Do you help private homes or things like that, or are you
Still
just kind
do.
of
I
okay?
still
So
do like yeah, well, like when we first started out in like 2006, maybe when I lived near that park, I really wanted to put a team together. Again, working at a metaphysical shop and running like the psychic reader schedule, I could employ like a lot of readers and psychics
mhm,
to come in and help bless these areas, help us like isolate areas where there was maybe like a stuck soul or a lot of activity. But for us, like one of the ways to draw the spirit out of the home, if it was a troublesome spirit, was to like leave a plate of food outside. Something from that earthly, physical realm that they really missed. Some people like might leave like cigarettes if they like enjoyed smoking outside of the home, just something to draw that spirit out. But again, like sage was really popular. I don't know. It's when we started out, like in 2006, we called these like residentials when
mhm,
people would call on us to come and bless a space. And we just got really burned out. A lot of people wanted to be kind of like, thought we could get them on TV, or they just wanted I'm not saying everybody,
right.
but some of them wanted like over dinner. Oh yeah, we just had the spirit chasers. We had future ghosts, down here.
Yes,
And it was just kind of
I've
like
dealt
a
with that
thing.
too.
But the biggest thing was just we really wanted to educate people. You need to know how to do this yourself. You need to be responsible for your life experiences. So okay, so you're an empath. You're really sensitive to energy. Well, what are you doing about that? You don't just run around screaming, oh my gosh, I'm so sensitive to energy. You have to find a way to cap that and
Mhm.
establish your own like boundaries. What are you doing to shield yourself from that energy, or to get through the day to where you have some kind of like screen to where you're just not like in a ball or in a fetal position, like
Right.
every half an hour, So for us, it was just more about like educating people. Okay, we can come in, we can smudge, we can like do all these, different things, but really how to, part of it is just coexisting, like I
Mhm.
said, with the caves. It doesn't matter how much you smudge or burn this or that. It's those spirits are always going to be there. That's their home.
Yeah,
That's the only home they've ever known. So
right,
there's no driving them out.
right. Yeah, I believe that too. I believe they are where they are. You know, people always say, "Aren't you afraid you're gonna have something follow you home?" I'm like, "Who? No, they are." I believe now. Before I leave, I say nobody can come home with me just
Yeah.
because I'm superstitious. But I believe they are where they are for a
Mhm.
reason. They don't
Yeah.
want to come home with me. You
Mhm.
know, so um, now I don't even know where the heck I was going with that. I had so many questions while you were talking in my head, and now
That's
I
how
hate
my
when
mind
I
works. Oh my gosh.
I
I
hate
did a
that.
podcast a few weeks ago and my mind was just all over the place.
Yes. I had so many questions, but oh, that was what I was gonna say. Um, when you're trying to educate these people, you know, and help them, um, now are you trying to use your belief system, or do you learn, you know, let's just say, you know, they're Catholic or they're
Yeah.
Jewish or
Yeah.
they're, you know, Buddhist. Like, are you using their, are you helping them with their practices, or are you trying to
Yeah.
incorporate your,
Yeah, whatever they're comfortable with, whatever their reality is, we always honor that. Obviously, that's just part of that like interview process leading up to identifying what's going on in their home and why. If it's psychological, if it's like something like a 13-year-old is generating with a lot of their psychic energy, their psychic output, whatever it is. But we always honor that. Even myself, like, again, as even though I'm not Mexican, I know I was in a previous incarnation. So, and maybe it's a lot of people thinking when I was growing up I was Hispanic, but I just find it a very beautiful culture. A lot of their traditions. So again, celebrating Day of the Dead, it's not part of my culture, but it's something I can still participate in and celebrate. So for us as Sioux, we didn't believe in hell. We didn't have Jesus. We had maybe like White Buffalo Medicine Woman, walking Katanka. We had our own legends and stories about our own creation. So um, that was another thing once leaving the tribe. Well, what is the devil then? What is Lucifer? Once I
you're
got
like
older,
learning everything.
exactly. Like again, my grandfather, obviously, really be careful what you ask for. So when I said, well, I want to know what demons are, because certainly we had malevolent entities, but we didn't really have things that were named Lucifer or demons. So when I started exploring what are these things and having experiences with these things, yeah, some of them are pretty frightening, but again, it's just part of that spiritual knowledge and advancement.
Did you feel that the stories behind them were similar?
Very, very similar. It's
Mhm.
just like a mirror. you know
Yeah. See, and I say that all the time. I'm like, what if everything is what it is, but it's how we perceive it, what that makes it
Yes.
different,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
us as human have to have labels for everything. You know what I mean? So you might call it a UFO, I call it Bigfoot, or I may say it's a ghost and somebody else says it's the devil,
Yeah.
and or you know, who knows?
That's why sometimes it's a challenge. Like I filmed season 4 of Haunted Hospitals last February, and it already premiered in Canada, so it'll be premiering in the US very soon. But
Yay.
sometimes that's a challenge because, again, it's a lot of beliefs from my own culture, from my own background. Um, Maybe trying to get people out of a state of fear, but again, wanting to honor where they come from and what their own reality is. So a lot of times, if they have an experience with something or a creature, what do you think this creature is? Well, I don't know. I'm not there, but I can say what it might be. It's
Right.
just, everyone has their own reality. If it feels like BS, just, blow it off. But, a lot of times too, these stories they're sharing, they're so contaminated by fear, and that's something we see a lot, like in a lot of the residentials we've done in the past, where fear is such a huge element. So we really try
Mhm.
to steer them away from that and inform them, you know, um, just bring them up to like a higher vibration, so they
Yeah.
feel a little more empowered and not so vulnerable.
Right. Yeah. That was one of the things where, when we would go in and somebody would say, well, try pushing me down the steps.
Yes.
Um, I say, listen, you can't see it. If it wants to push you down the steps, you're going down the steps.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. You don't know what's coming,
Yeah.
if that's what they want to do. And I always try to like say, that movie Ghost, when Patrick
Yeah.
Swayze was in the subway. That's my favorite example of it, where
Yes.
he's
I love that.
trying to learn how to kick the can.
Yeah.
And he's trying and he can't. And then he uses all of his energy and he just kicks it and it goes flying across the subway. Well, what
Yeah.
if you were standing there? You
Hmm.
would have thought something tried to hit you in the head with the can of soda,
Yeah.
but an electric. So you never know. Maybe it's just that they're trying to get your attention
Hmm.
and you're not feeling it, you're not hearing it, you're not seeing it, and it gets fresh. Maybe they're just like, come on, will you hear me? And to you feels like it's this big push,
Yeah.
but really they're using all of their might to try to get your attention.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people that have been affected physically. Like it's kind of like a rite of passage. You go on this paranormal investigation, you get scratched. Everyone's saying they got scratches. And, for us, a lot of what we see, like we know a man that even got punched once. And I believe it was because he wasn't showing enough respect for the spirits in that area. Even me, one time we were investigating this old chapel that had a morgue in the basement. It used to be a more old mortuary. And they had this contraption that brought the coffins up and down to the different levels. And there was this kind of like this pit underneath the coffin. And I was down there in the dark with my friends, and we weren't really goofing off, but we were just kind of like gossiping and just going through like our ghost photos, and
Yeah.
we weren't really paying enough respect.
Or
And
attention.
yeah, something pushed me into that hole. So, which kind of came up to my waist, and it
Oh,
hurt.
wow.
I hit my arm on the way down, and it wasn't that I felt that physical push. Like I just blinked, and then all of a sudden I'm in this hole, and all my friends are running. Oh my God, are you okay? What happened?
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I just wasn't watching where I was going, but something pushed me down there. And again, I didn't want to start this huge
Right.
fear, but I regretted afterwards not paying enough respect for people that were brought up and down in this contraption. And so that's just something I'm trying to be more aware of when I do go to these locations. Even for a Native American, there's things that you might forget when you get so wrapped up in the moment with other people and all these different energies.
Sure. And it's interesting you say that because when we were at Hinsdale, we noticed that that was when a lot of stuff was happening, when we weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
We didn't, I mean, we did our respect thing outside and kind of, you know what I mean? Like we did all that. We did, like I said, to the giving tree and everything. I think it was just, they wanted, I think they loved, because we laughed the whole weekend. We
Yeah.
laughed the whole, and we weren't laughing at, we were just, that's how we are. You know,
Yes.
we're eight best friends. So we have so much fun together.
Yeah.
But when we were cackling and laughing and joking, that was when stuff was happening. You know, we would hear, you know, our equipment going off upstairs, and none of us were up there, you know, and we, all kinds of stuff, you know,
Mhm.
was happening. And, you know, even when when we were trying to communicate, you know, we got EVPs and all kinds of stuff. Like, it was literally the best weekend I've ever
Yeah.
had because of
Yeah.
all the different experiences I had, you
Uh-huh.
know, and definitely feeling connected with the land, you
Uh-huh.
know, and doing that whole, I mean, so when we went up, it's funny because when we went up, there's this one tree that everybody hangs stuff on, gives stuff to. There's
Mhm.
dream catchers, there's beer,
Yeah.
there's everything, right? And I look over to the left, and there's this other tree. And I'm like, this one's calling to me. Like, I'll give something to this one, but I want to give something to this one for some reason. Like,
Yeah.
this is the tree I want. So my peaches, they were like, yeah, let's do it. You know, so we all, you know, I love that about them. Like, they don't question, you know, they won't question that if that's something that one of us wants to do to give respect, you know, they're like, all right, let's do it, you know, and they
Mhm.
were all about it. So we gave something to the one tree, and then we gave a whole bunch of stuff to the other tree in hopes that maybe it'll spread throughout the whole,
Yeah.
all the trees, right?
Yeah.
And people will just start giving stuff to all the trees there.
Yeah, all of nature wants acknowledgement too,
Yeah.
and protection. But there's a lot of things that we've experienced that weren't even like intelligent. We always just think in black and white. It's an intelligent spirit or it's residue. There's just so much more to this realm than just that. There's nature spirits, there's elementals, there's the fae, which I never understood. Like when we used to talk about the fae or fairies in the paranormal presentations we do, there'd always be kind of some giggling. But like in Ireland, where Halloween originated, it's just the Fae is such an integral part of that holiday. They still build around like these fairy mounds. So and for me as a Native American, we knew what they were. These smaller uh, entities or life forms that could generate their own light. We didn't call them fairies, but we were well aware of these things that existed.
So,
So
not the time I was there, but
mm,
Megan, one of my peaches, was there, and she had seen these little blue lights.
yeah,
And it was her and another gentleman named Mike Ricksecker. They were there, and you know, they were seeing these blue lights. We didn't see them. Well, I didn't see them when we were there, but Dana, one of the other peaches, they were talking, and I will admit, you know, that when I hear fairy, you know, I'm like, I think of Tinkerbell.
yeah, yeah,
I know that that's not, but you know, it's hard to not think of Tinkerbell.
yeah.
But she went and she got sugar, or like powdered, like candied
Perfect.
sugar, and she was putting just little things
That's
around
awesome.
all
Yeah.
throughout. Yeah, and I thought that was so awesome. But to
Yeah.
experience that with them, to do
Mhm.
that with them, um, it totally, like, I felt so much closer to them after that, you know,
Yeah.
because I've never done anything like that before. I never went to a giving tree. I've never watched
Yeah.
anybody put sugar out for fairies and stuff. And um, she said, just in case. But you know, and it gave it. I have a whole new respect for all that stuff. You know what I mean? After going, you know, after experiencing that stuff. Again,
Mhm.
I did feel uncomfortable with the music, the drums and everything, because like
Yeah.
I said, I don't know what we were playing. We could have
Mhm.
been, it could have been, you know, nothing good, you know, something not good, you know, who knows? Because like I said,
Mhm.
I feel like those things tell stories, you know, and
Yeah.
there's different Indian tribes, there are different belief systems just like we have today, you know, so who knows? But, you know, not that I don't trust my girls, I'm sure they know what they're doing, you know what I mean? But to me, it just made me feel uncomfortable because maybe I wasn't in control. I
Yeah.
didn't know what to expect.
Mhm.
So I didn't know how to, and like again, I'm not educated that well in Native American, you know, cultures and beliefs and stuff like that. So I just felt a little uncomfortable, you know what I mean? And not knowing, and I didn't wanna be disrespectful.
Yeah, it's just a part of like setting your intention. So, we're playing these drums. Maybe we don't know what they are, but we're playing it for the intention, for the purpose of honoring the Native Americans that were here,
Right.
and from, inviting them to come and interact with us. Like where I work in a metaphysical shop, we carry a lot of gemstones, crystals, which people have used throughout the ages for different things. For instance, for with Native Americans, like turquoise is something they've used for kind of like protection and good luck. Black tourmaline is a really big one for protection. Selenite is a good cleanser. I've always got a quartz to help me think properly. But we're always trying to tell people that you don't just stick it in your pocket and call it a day. These things are just tools. You're the battery, so you activate these things. So if you're going to carry this around, okay, I'm carrying this crystal with me today for the purposes of maybe drawing in positive energy, maybe drawing in these energies of calm, and whatever it is. But same thing on investigation. Like our best paranormal investigations where we just took at least 5 to 10 minutes with this game plan. Because a lot of people that we take on tours or tours we've been on, they just want to go through it like as a kind of like a tourist.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
happened to me, scratch me. I want to
yeah,
hear something, whatever it is. They're
right.
not really setting their intention. What do they want to have happen? What do they want to
Yeah, what do they
connect with?
want out of it, right? Or what do they
Yeah,
wanna give back?
yeah, that's just a really big part of it.
This is a interesting question because Victoria, I feel you on this one, and everybody that knows me will contest to this. I save flies, I save ants, I don't kill anything. I can't. If I
Yeah.
do, it's by accident.
Mhm.
So wherever I'm at, if there's a bug, if there's whatever, I will try to I capture it, and if somebody else is like, ah, psh, I'm like, oh, I'm like,
Yeah.
what did you do that for? I get so upset, even though I think it's gross, I'll
Mhm.
think it's disgusting. I never want to kill anything. So she says, would love to know from Chris his advice as to how to handle being too attached to nature and living things, all the way down to the tiniest ant. Feel emotional pain if they are killed or hurt. I feel this
Yeah.
100%. I do. Victoria, you are not alone because I feel this.
That's part of just that empathy is that's part of what is a challenge for me when I'm invited on different seasons of haunted hospitals and other shows, because I'm supposed to focus more on the activity and where this activity is coming from. But as someone who is very as someone who is empathic, I'm more connecting with that person's emotional state, and helping that person. I mean, it's a hospital, you want to help them. So helping, and just for viewers too, so I'm more invested in the emotional response of that human, and how that affects their reality. But same thing with animals, it's just I remember how devastated I was. One time I hit a rabbit, one time I hit a
Mm,
dog, and it just about killed me. But that is just really important. That's just something that you want to keep with you at all times, just like with anything else. You're going to go way overboard on it. You can obsess about things,
I
but
do.
everything has their own path. Everything has an entrance and an exit. So who are
Well,
we
why
to know?
why do they always enter into my path and then I can't? There was a
Yeah,
turkey in the middle of a busy highway, and I pull everybody else is, like, beeping at it and going around it. No, I can't just drive past, right? I have to pull over. Now I'm chasing the turkey in the middle of the highway, like,
yeah,
almost people are just videoing and laughing, like, "Is that your pet?" I'm like, "No, it's not my pet. I just don't want him to get hit," like,
yeah,
trying to get him out of this road, and
mhm,
nobody else cared. I said, like,
yeah,
why isn't anybody else caring? And
yeah.
why, like, sometimes, well, I was 30 minutes late for work, right? I just didn't care about
Yeah.
myself. I
Mhm.
was trying to save this turkey.
Well,
And
fortunately, if they go, they're going to go quick. We can't do anything about that. That's
yeah,
again with it's just that path is between that living being and the creator. So we can do what we can to help, but we just can't plug into that emotion all the time. That's going to burn us out. It's just like being in, like these empaths. Like for a long time, people have been opening up to more of their mediumship, their psychic of development and awareness, their empathic skills, but they don't know how to cap those things or kind of put those things in their place so they're not like always on. You know, So that's a big, part of it that you want to explore. Um, but I think right now it's more important to the empathy that we feel for animals, and just make sure all those living things are these people, are other people. We're just in this period right now where it's like left or it's right. There's so much division, there's so much separation. Like my uncle said, it's like left wing, right wing, it's all part of that same bird. Sounds funny,
Right.
but it's like so true.
Yeah.
We need a lot of love right now, more than ever.
Yeah.
So that's really important, to extend that empathy into others whose maybe their beliefs are different than ours.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I'll say about that.
No. I agree with you. I mean, it's kind of hard because people are jerks nowadays. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I joke about it all the time. Like I care about animals more than I care about people. You know what I mean? But I mean,
yeah,
at the end of the day, if there was a turkey in the middle of the road and a
yeah,
person, you know what I mean? My I think I would save the person. I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, I
mhm,
think I would. I don't know, but
yeah,
I mean, like, and I only say that only because I didn't care about my own life. Like I'm chasing this bird around in the middle of this busy highway in morning rush hour,
yeah,
where nobody cares. They're just trying to get to work or where they got to go.
yeah,
And I didn't even look to see if a car was coming. You know what I mean? Like I just instinctively just tried saving this turkey
yeah.
that ultimately probably could have gotten me killed, and I didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea. But um, I don't even know where I was going on with that. Um, Chris is such a great guy, huge heart, very sensitive.
Thanks, Wes. Did he say he was at Disneyland?
Yes, he's at Disneyland.
I'm
Yeah,
so envious. I miss California so much. Actually, Disneyland is very paranormally active.
is it?
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of places. We went on, I think for me, as someone that's very sensitive to those energies, like Pirates of the Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
those first 5 minutes of that ride, I don't know what's
Oh,
in
he's
there
at
or
Disney
what that
World. He's
was.
at Disney World.
Oh, Disney World. Oh, okay. I've not been there yet. I'm going to. I think they're going to finish that Tron roller coaster in the spring, and I plan to visit after that. So,
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've never been either.
mm,
My favorite place to go, and you being so sensitive, probably I don't know if you've ever been there, but Gettysburg. But
yeah.
Gettysburg might be tough for you.
Oh, yeah. Like we went to, like last summer we did New Orleans. We stayed in the French Quarter at a haunted hotel, and one of the things we loved about that was they're so proud, of their history. You can go up to a total stranger. Is this place haunted? What do you know about this place? I mean, ghost story after ghost story, and not just spirits, but also like vampires. There's just so many things there that people are willing to share. So that was such a fun trip. We went to
Mhm.
California. We spent the night on the Queen Mary. We went to the Winchester Mystery House, USS Hornet,
Oh, Winchester
Alcatraz.
Mystery House. I want it. I want to see that place.
It was beautiful, but you can't take any pictures inside,
Nothing?
And there's still a lot of areas that are like dangerous or suffered damage, like in the earthquake in the 1900s. So yeah, it was a really, really interesting place, but I was really just trying to tap into Sarah Winchester's like energy. And a lot of people just think she's like bizarre, or I was just trying to tap into who she was as a authentic like human being. But
Mhm.
yeah, there was just too much going on that trip. We did so many things, like
Oh.
Alcatraz. We did a night tour of Alcatraz, and
Oh,
I burnt out. There was just so much energy there.
at Alcatraz.
Yeah, like we were put in a solitary confinement, and as soon as my back hit the wall, I felt like this. I winced. I was in so much pain, but it was like I felt like the energy of someone being stabbed, like with one of those shanks, because I'm really sensitive to like the residual kind of stuff. So that really was very unpleasant. Like I was so happy when we finally got into like the Bright Lift like gift shop, because I was so done with tapping in. I couldn't do anymore. There's just so much energy there, concentrated energy.
Um, have you ever been to a place like Gettysburg though? Have you ever been where
Well, I mean, I was
50,000
born in South
casualties?
Dakota, so
Yeah.
Custer. I mean, that whole Wounded
Oh,
Knee.
yeah. Mhm.
Lots of those kinds of that kind of a history. So definitely, yeah, where there's a lot of blood in the soil.
Yeah.
But Gettysburg, I've not been to yet. I keep saving that one. That's definitely in my top 10.
Yeah. Well, if you ever need a tour guide, I will join you and take
I
you
would,
around
I
and show
would love
you.
that.
I'll show you I'll show you everything.
Yeah.
Um, yes, you need to go to the bash, the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash.
It sounds amazing. It's like every year we plan. So like this year we were supposed to do like Sleepy Hollow. There was a convention there, and we got pulled away. We did like a lot of like sacred sites in Mexico. Did like one of the most haunted houses in New Mexico. So I don't know. Sometimes you make plans and just spirit has other spirit has other plans.
Oh yeah, anything goes when you're there. To be honest
Yeah,
with you, because you can. There's so much to do. There's
yeah,
so much. Everybody's like, "What's in Gettysburg?" Like people are like, "Oh my god, what is there to do in Gettysburg?" I'm like, I spent 10 days there by myself. Trust me, there's stuff to do in Gettysburg or the surrounding areas. Like if you're there that long, Antietam is right there, Waynesboro is right there, where Pam and Steve Barry have their place.
yep.
Um, so it's. I mean, like, there's so much to do there. And like I said, if you ever want to go, just let me know. I'll totally meet you out there, and you know what I'm saying. Like we'll run amok in Gettysburg. It's interesting because there's one of the places, Devil's Den. Um, a lot of people are under the misconception that it's got its name from the war, the Civil War. But and again, you hear the stories, right? And have I confirmed this? No, but I've heard it from a lot of like park rangers and historians and stuff that whole area was an Indian reservation,
Uh-huh.
and there were black snakes that would go into the rocks, and they
Hmm.
called the snakes the devil.
Uh-huh.
So that's where Devil's Den got its name
I have
because
heard that.
yeah. So I've heard that several times, and I love that story.
Yeah.
And I tell it because I want to recognize the Native Americans being there,
Yes.
because everybody just focuses on all the Civil War stuff,
Yeah.
and I get it. I mean, that was like, but there was also this history too,
Hmm.
so you can't, you don't want to forget the history,
Yeah. I mean,
because
yeah. A lot of people talk about Native American burial grounds. This trope, regardless of what it is, it's a real thing. It's part of why we didn't wander around areas where there was like a lot of death, because you could absorb. Like nowadays, we know how to cleanse ourselves spiritually. Most of us, hopefully. But for us, when I would hear about these movies, these stories, oh yeah, Native American burial ground. Well, that was great for us because that was representation. That was honoring us. The people that went before. So I don't have any trouble with that kind of trope.
um can I ask you something, and this is just, it's not a disrespectful question, but I was going to ask you this, like, when it comes to the Native American spirits, like, and when I say, I'm wondering if I'm putting in my own head, which is creating that fear,
Yeah.
that I mean this in every way respectable I can say this,
Yeah.
but I feel like, we deserve to be hated,
Mhm.
right? I mean,
No.
do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mean
Yeah.
that to sound bad,
Mhm.
but I feel like, you know, I don't know how to say it without saying,
I know what you're talking about, because I've
yeah,
done like presentations and powwows. My uncle dances at powwows here. I go to the biggest one in Denver, which is the Denver March powwow, every year. And we kind of get like the same thing. People coming up. I'm so sorry. These kinds of things. But if you're sorry, just make sure that you're walking as close to that red road as possible, meaning that alignment with spirit, that respect for other living things, for the land. Just make sure you're living in tandem with all of those. Like a lot of um, some of what spirituality that I see now is more about for social media. I'm such a spiritual person. Look, I have like this crystal glued to my third eye. But what are you really doing with that? Are you really practicing, with these principles? Like most of us can't even wait behind a car for 2 minutes, without being in this panic state. Get the hell out of my way.
true,
So
true.
it's patience. It's a lot of these spiritual virtues that are being forgotten about. Spirituality is a practice. There are practice and there's disciplines. You think about all the tools that are available to us as ghost hunters right now, things that allow us to see in the dark, to record voices from hundreds of years ago. Um, these lenses that allow us to see into the infrared. These things that can sense when the unseen is near. what are we doing with these things? These are
Right.
things that saints and holy people, spent years and years trying to achieve that level of awareness and perception. And for a lot of people, it's just kind of like sitting there looking at a box blinking on and off. So we really have to look at what we're doing. Again, setting our intention. How we're incorporating that spirit into our own lives.
What do you think about dowsing rods?
I love them. I use them a lot. There's places I've been where this is an exaggeration, where they spun like helicopters. I used to
It
live
happened
down
to
the
me
street.
once.
Yeah, I used to live near Cheeseman Park in Denver, which was Steven Spielberg's inspiration for Poltergeist. And in the late 1800s, it was a cemetery. And there's still around like 5,000 bodies underneath. They just removed the headstones. So where they were open graves, they planted shrubs. The shrubs would grow up into trees, and people would see faces in the bark. A lot of things like that. When I used to lay out there, like in the 90s, I didn't know it was a old cemetery. I would find these perfect like body-shaped depressions in the earth that I'd like lay out in that were nice and cool. But then like later that night, my dream time would be so erratic and dark. And I would know that these were places where the wooden coffins had collapsed, creating depressions in the earth. So this was just a place that I was really, we went back several times, but and still, there's still that these spirits are crying out for acknowledgement. Like some people in the area might have their doorbells rung. People still looking for their graves, that they can't
Mm.
find. I got a really great EVP last year of just someone under a bridge saying hello. So I don't know remember why we brought that up, but it's just very interesting.
No, that is
Cheeseman Park, look it
interesting.
up.
No, that is interesting. I honestly like that your story was so good, and I was picturing you laying in like the depression and stuff like that. That I don't remember why we talked about it in the beginning with either. But
Yeah.
that was like a really. You said that you grew up because you said about growing up um, in an area because I was talking about how Gettysburg and how it's like so. Um, you can just feel the energy in the air there.
And a lot of
Um,
it is projected energy. It's our own thoughts projected onto it, kind of a lot of times creating, a lot of this stuff.
mhm.
Like when the man was it William Gibson that wrote The Shadow, which was the early inspiration for Batman. When he died in Greenwich Village, people were seeing a spirit in his apartment, but it wasn't him. It was actually
Oh,
a spirit that looked like the shadow, this thing that he created.
oh. So you think that a lot of that is like we're projecting that from our minds?
A lot of times we can, just like
I always
uh
say that the mind is a powerful thing. If a woman can convince herself she's pregnant when she's not,
yeah.
or she's not when she is,
Yeah,
the mind is a powerful, powerful thing.
yeah, just like my nieces, they all had a point growing up where there was a lot of poltergeist activity. I grew up with like 4 to 6 different girls, cousins, my sister, that all went through that stage. And when that happened, there was a lot of paranormal activity in our home. But again, a lot of that energetic and psychic projections, that they didn't know how to control.
Yeah. Wow. Chris, this has been a look, I can't believe it's an hour and 15 minutes already.
Oh my gosh.
It
Yeah,
went by very, very fast.
just for your viewers, you can go to thespiritchasers.com is my website, where you can see a lot of these pictures from like the park where this plane crashed, Cheeseman Park, a lot of what I'm doing right now, haunted hospitals, the EVP I was talking about, videos, they're all on that website. So
I find that people like you, where you're very spiritual and on a spiritual side of things, almost maybe medium ish. You know what I mean? Where you can connect. I feel like um people, and I mean this respectfully, like you don't have to paranormal investigate.
mhm.
It's a different reason why you're there.
Yeah, it is. Like I just released shameless plug, Selfies from the
No, no,
Underworld,
please plug anything
a
you want.
Native
This is
American's
your
record
show.
of paranormal. But my next book is actually going to be more about my dream time. So maybe a little less to do with like the paranormal, because that's just, again, part of that world that's incorporated into my life every single day. I mean, the first thing I wake up every single day is I'll write down my dream and I'll email it to myself. And then I'll incorporate that into my dream journal. Because if you don't write it down right when you remember it, you're just going to lose it. And for people that say they can't remember their dreams, you can train yourself to remember it. If you just make it the habit of recording it every single day, as much as, even if you just remember like a footnote about your dream, that's just such an important area for especially people in the paranormal community to be working with their dream time.
Oh yeah. And you could just take those and there's your book.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you've been
Yeah.
writing a book your whole life, but you didn't even know it.
Exactly.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, a
Well,
lot of that's going into my next one, Dreamtime Architecture.
So Dana said she remembered. Thank you, Peach. We were talking about dowsing rods because I asked if you believed in dowsing
Yes.
rods.
Yeah.
That's where we started. Yeah. Can
Yeah,
you
I think
repeat the name of your book?
it's Selfies from the Underworld.
Okay, because I was
Native American record of the supernatural.
awesome.
But yeah, dowsing rods, because I had gone to Cheeseman Park, and we were trying to find these trees that had been planted into the open graves where people were seeing faces in the bark. And once I programmed these dowsing rods, they led us straight to that one of the trees. So I've always used those. They've worked for me.
Now, do you think that the faces in the bark was like pareidolia, or do you think that was them projecting those faces because of, when people know the history of something,
Yeah.
walking in and, into something? That's why I try not to get the ghost stories. I like the historical facts, but I don't like
Yeah.
the ghost stories when I go to a place,
Yeah. Because we spoke a lot with like the staff members, people that worked around there. There's like the Denver Botanic Gardens right next to it. So we really tapped into a lot of that history. And it's an experience like a lot of people saw in the bark of these trees, like seeing different faces. Certainly a lot of that could be pareidolia, like a lot of the EVPs, a lot of people that go out with the spirit boxes. There's a lot of audio pareidolia too.
Oh, absolutely.
You heard curly, I heard surly. Oh, surly, so it's malevolent. Things like that. You
Yeah.
just but again, everyone has their own reality, so, and that's
true.
their reality that they're entitled to. So
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Plug away. And then when haunted hospitals, wait, I wanted to ask you this. Is it hospitals that are like no longer in operation?
no, a lot of these still are,
Okay.
they still are, the like the one where my mom worked, that is still, I don't know what they turned that pool room into, but I know it's still closed off. I'm sure they're still getting calls from that room, but
That's so
it's
cool.
still in operation. So yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been to an abandoned hospital?
I did, like just last month, a place called St. Joseph in Florence, Colorado,
Mhm.
where we got a lot of activity. But again, for me, it's a lot of it for people that go into these locations. It's this ooh ah, and I really want to tap into the history. Who these people were. What stories they have. So we don't. We just investigate very differently, very maybe consciously.
Mhm.
I know a lot of your viewers do, but it's not just kind of turning on a spirit box and sitting there and letting that box do the work for you. It's really engaging as much as you can with whatever's there, whether it's intelligent or residual, these histories, everything, as you said, has a story. So
Yeah. When I go to a location, I like to, and I don't get to do this very often at all, but I notice that I can really get answers from whatever if I go in, I lay on the floor, no matter how dirty it is,
yeah,
and I close my eyes and I'm there for about 10 minutes in silence. I want to hear the location. I want to feel it. I
yeah,
want to I want to hear that the natural sounds of the house. I want to
mhm,
hear the location so that if I do hear something, I'm like, "Oh, no, no, I heard that earlier."
yeah.
So I know it's, you know what I mean? Like I noticed that when I have done that, and how often do we get to do something like that? When you're with 10 to 15 people, you can't
Exactly.
keep 10 to 15 people shut up for 10 minutes. It's
Yeah,
impossible. Um, but, so I don't get to do that very often, but I feel like if I did, I probably would have more experiences like you have,
mhm,
as opposed to me relying on my recorder. I mean, I am clairaudient. I can hear sometimes, you know what I mean? But which is why I'm not a big fan of spirit boxes and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
it distracts me from, I feel like
It,
it puts up a block.
yes. Yes.
So I really, I'm not a fan of them. But, um, man,
But that's like that is such a great thing. You're that's part of you setting your intention. That's connecting with the environment, with the earth, just the energy that's there. Like I did that the first time we went to that park where that plane crashed. A couple of people passing by thought we were a little crazy. Who are these guys laying on the ground in this park in the middle of the night? But that's why it's helpful to go with friends that understand you, know what you're doing.
right. No, that's 100%. And people that know you.
Mhm.
Because spirit has known to manipulate people, and you know what I mean, this and that. So it's always good to go with people that you trust, people that know you, that
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I personally would never, and I say this, but I do in Gettysburg, investigate by myself.
Mhm.
But in Gettysburg, I feel like it's different there. I'm so connected with the land there that
Yes.
I feel like it protects me, and that
Yeah.
might be ignorant of me, but
Mhm.
that's how comfortable I am there. I'll walk around in the woods at midnight
Yeah.
in that town. I'm not afraid of it. Um, but I wouldn't do that in New Jersey. That's
No.
for damn sure.
Mhm.
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
I've got so many specials on Gettysburg. Like I've been wanting to do this bash, but one of my favorite stories, I don't know if you've heard it. You probably have. It's the one where I think it was on campus, where the two women. It was nighttime, and they took the elevator down to the
Mhm.
basement.
Yes.
And the doors opened. They saw
And
the
it's a
old.
field hospital.
Yes, yes. So that's one of
Yeah.
my favorite stories. I just love ghost stories anyway, but I love that one.
Yeah, there's quite a few of those residual type
Yeah.
stories that are told.
Mhm.
Um there's they had some government officials they brought on a tour, and they thought a reenactment was going on,
Yes.
and they thanked the National Park Service for putting like this cool reenactment on for them. They were like, wow, you did this for us. And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, there
That.
was no reenactments today. There was no, everything's got to get approved. Like, stuff like that has to get approved by the parks.
Uh,
You know what I mean? Like, you can't just go walking and
yeah.
around with with muskets and know. But there's a lot of that. But for me, I would say 9 out of 10 of my experiences have all been
Yeah.
intelligent answers, intelligent stuff. So I don't know why that is, but maybe that's me doing what you say. Like, like maybe I'm, projecting, and that's why I get. Well, the thing is though, a lot of it is caught on the recorder.
Mhm.
So I'll hear it and I say, I just heard. But then when we listen back, you hear it and then you hear me say it. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
it's all caught on recorder,
Yeah.
so that's the only thing that stumps me on that whole thing when I'm
Mhm.
saying, like, maybe I am wanting to hear this,
Mhm.
that's why I'm hearing it. But, you know, I don't
That's
know.
one
It's
thing I like about invited onto these shows as like a paranormal expert, but I've never called myself an expert because we're all learning all the
yeah,
time. We're always in a state of growth. So it's great to be able to go on different investigations and try different things, come at things maybe from a different angle, or maybe try something maybe that worked for a different culture. Like when I went to New Orleans last year, I'm so interested in like voodoo because it's always been like a scary thing. It was
yes.
demonized by other cultures, but I know there's a lot of power there. So that was the first place we went to, was the Voodoo Museum, which was the only one of three like authentic, voodoo museums in the world.
Never heard of
And
such a thing.
I bought a rattle, which is a kashishi rattle, which they use for summoning spirits, like in all the rituals.
Mhm.
So that's something I incorporate now, like a very old school kind of tool to encourage, spirits to come and interact with us. And it's worked so far.
Wow. So I see now I would be afraid to use something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I made sure to speak with an actual like voodoo priest that was there that actually
Okay.
let me hold his staff. And we spent like 2 hours with this guy and just told us everything we wanted to know about like voodoo and hoodoo, like all the different saints. how they work their magic. Some of it was very similar to my own, like medicine in my own tribe. So just always find the elders, like wherever you're going, people that have the most stories, that know the history, that know the area. But so it's not like in a disrespectful way I use this
No,
word.
no, 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 no.
Very informed and educated way, just like you'd use any other tool. But
Sure. Yeah, no, yeah. Long story short, I took a mediumship class one time when I was first starting out.
Mhm.
And, I didn't know this person, and I held her hand, and I know probably holding her hand had something to do with what I picked up, but like I was describing this woman, and I was seeing this woman in my head and just describing her. And the girl was kind of like not giving me any facial clue, like nothing. Like if it vibed with her, if she knew who this person was, nothing. I was getting nothing from her. And I felt like I was just talking, but I had so much description, I was like, she's wearing an oversized red sweatshirt, she has her head down, long dark hair. And I'm like, she's young. She's like, very young. And she left something behind. And I feel like what it has to do with it was her fault or passing, like why she's not here. I said, but it wasn't drugs and it wasn't suicide, but it was like, I felt like everybody around her was telling her, you know, you're going to die from that. And she didn't think she would, and even though in her heart, she thought, I could, but I'm just going to, whatever. Finally, I had to ask this girl, I'm like, is any of this making sense?
Yeah.
Because I said, you're not telling me anything. And I'm like rattling off all this stuff. And she said, yeah. Now, as young as this girl was, I thought maybe I was picking up on a friend.
Mhm.
And here it was. She said that's my mother. She
Oh
said
my
she had
gosh.
long dark hair. She does, as to my knowledge, she still has this oversized sweatshirt. And I said this to her. I said, she's so thin that this is like a small sweatshirt, but it looks like an extra large, like
Yeah.
it's, and she said, you described her to a T. And I said, wow. I said, okay. I said, well, I'm sorry for your loss. She said, oh, she's not dead.
Mhm.
And I said, okay. And I said, well, what was the left behind thing? And she said, well, my mom was into black magic.
Mhm.
And I don't know exactly. I didn't ask her details of what route that was in or where that went. I just automatically at that time being, not educated or knowing anything about it, just what I saw on TV.
Yeah.
I automatically went to voodoo and all that stuff, right? When she said black magic.
Mhm.
And she said my mom wanted to get out of it. And the group that she was with or whatever they're called, said you can go, you can physically go, but we own you.
That's
You're,
scary.
I
Wow.
know. That's what
Mhm.
she said. That's what this girl was told. So she said her mom did get out of it, but mentally something afterwards happened and she was in a mental institution.
Mhm.
I even described like the outside area, like the blacktop with the chain link fence and everything. Like I was seeing all this and like she said, yeah, she's in a mental institution. And, when I was 3 years old is when she left because she wanted to take care of me. But this happened. She couldn't even take care of herself. So my grandparents adopted me.
Mhm.
And my mom is in this home. And I said, yep, that's it. I don't want to do mediumship anymore. I'm good. That was too close for comfort and freaky for me. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
and I stopped
Yeah.
because I was like, how am I connecting with this woman that's still alive? And
Yeah.
like, black, I'll be like, nope, no, no, no.
Yeah.
Their
There's
their spidey senses are picking up on me.
well, I'll tell you a quick story because I would have been a paranormal I mean, my first paranormal investigation was at 12 with my little boombox, and it was like 1985 maybe. But I would have become like a paranormal investigator before 2006 when I formed Future Ghost. I had an experience where I worked in an old building in downtown Denver, which used to be a speakeasy long time ago.
Mhm.
And I worked as a shipping and receiving clerk, and all of our tools were down there, like the bubble wrap and styrofoam, all these boxes and containers. But we always went down there in pairs because you could still hear echoes from that period. People talking, glasses clinking together, all those things. It was just so spooky. And people just like dead time. For us anyway, that was a reality. Like around 3 o'clock was when you'd have the highest concentration of those noises. So we always talked about ghosts and spirits a lot, and which made one of the employees really comfortable because he didn't really have that background. And all he knew about the paranormal world were these scary movies and these scary shows that he saw. So a lot of times he'd come to me for advice. And one time he was like, my sister, I want to tell about my sister. And she was applying for a job with the wildlife division here in Colorado. And one of the things she had to do was become a ranger and live in this cabin, completely isolated in the middle of the woods alone. And like her jobs would be things like checking lightning strikes for possible fires, checking tagged animals, checking soil, different paths for erosion, things like that. So she goes out there for 3 months. She does this. She comes back. So her performance is under review. And like one of the things she did when she was out there in her spare time was she took a lot of pictures. So pictures of like wildlife, flowers, the sunset, all of these things. She got back and she develops these pictures when that was a thing before cell phones. And she has a complete mental breakdown in the parking lot. So they take her to the hospital and they call her brother, who was my coworker that I worked at this place. And, the people gave him her purse. So he's sitting there waiting to see her. And he sees the pictures in her purse. And he's just kind of going through these pictures to find out, if he could find out what caused her attack. So he's going through these pictures and he sees these flowers and these bugs and sunsets. And I think he's going to tell me, oh yeah, there's a picture of like Bigfoot or Sasquatch in there. It's actually far more horrifying. He's like, I come to this one picture and it's a picture of her asleep on the cabin on her bed. So something had been in there. Yeah. And taken this picture.
Oh my
And,
God.
I was like, oh, this is an urban legend. I think I've heard this before. He's like, well, no, if you have, this is where it originated. This has actually happened before. Park rangers do not want to be sent to this particular cabin. We're trying to find out why this is happening. Do you want to go with me? And he actually gave me the address to this cabin, which I still have to this day. And I was like, hell no. I didn't have at that time I was still, grappling with my fear as a contaminant and trying to override that and tap into history, people, etc. But I'm like, I don't know what the hell is causing this, this kind of activity.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I still have my own bouts with putting my fear in its place.
Yeah. We all are going to go through that. We all
Yeah.
go through that probably. And we just have to learn how to handle it. Oh, there was somebody in Stale. We call it dancing. Oh. I've had you now for an hour and a half.
Thank you. I'm glad I've had enough to contribute for an hour and a half.
Oh my gosh, I could talk to you for hours. I'm not even kidding.
You're so awesome. Like you would be so cool to investigate with.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I really am and if I hear a noise, I do go after it and I try to see what it is and all that stuff. But yeah, anytime. I would love to if our paths ever cross somehow, but definitely would love to go somewhere, where you're going to be at or and I look forward to seeing Haunted Hospitals when it comes out.
Same here.
I love all that stuff, medical stuff. And that's one of the things next to me. I have this huge armoire filled with medical antiques. So I'm like a medical antiquer.
Oh, wow.
I have like all kinds of stuff. I'm like, like, look at this. Here's an old school.
Oh my gosh.
Crutch. It's like sitting right here. That's my thing is the medical antiques, medical field. I like going to medical museums. So I love that you're involved with the haunted hospital stuff and everything. I think it's just really, really cool. And I say that in a respectful way because obviously, people have passed and, their spirits are there and this and that, I mean, it's nice to know that somebody is doing something and caring about those people as well. You know, I
Well,
mean, a lot of people sit there and say, "Oh, if you died here, why would you want to stay here?" But I mean, honestly, do we really even know any of the answers? You know what I mean? Like, it's how do you know unless you really go through it? You know?
yeah, yeah. Well, that room, that particular room where you have these items, do you ever get any activity in that room?
Um, I think I have. I think I have heard stuff. Like
Yeah.
my our bedroom is across the hall from here, so I'm laying in there, and I
Mhm.
have heard stuff. You know, and my animals react to stuff in the hallway and everything like that. You know, when we're sometimes when we're like in bed, and I'll be like, "What?" You know, and I'm nudging my boyfriend. I'm like, "Babe," and he's like, I'm like, "Great." Like, I'm gonna have to go this one alone. I was like, "All right, what are we looking at here? Like, what's going on?" But yeah, I do.
It's why I always broadcast from this room, which is my bat room. So this is like all of my Batman paraphernalia. Also to honor like Kevin Conroy, who voiced Batman. He just passed a couple days ago. But this
Yes.
room in particular has a lot of paranormal activity. Like I've got like a Batman bust that'll go off. So maybe in the middle of the night, if I'm going to the bathroom, um, I am the night. Hear that in that kind of thing.
Oh God.
Um, but of all the things I have, it's always that one. If I change the batteries, no matter what I do, that thing is always going off. And we talked about the guy that created the shadow, and how after he died, they were seeing not his spirit, but the spirit of the shadow, this superhero that he'd created.
Oh
It's the
wow.
same thing with this bat room. When I built this, I really wanted the energy of bats, my bat totem, the knight, the Batman. What is he really? This figure. So a lot of times that I get a lot of activity in this room because of that.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of my antiques in here. So,
Yeah.
I have a wash basin from like 1870 over there.
Oh,
I mean, just yeah, I love all that stuff. I love history. I love historical items. I love all that. And
mhm.
um I try not to attribute it to my items.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, but yeah, definitely have stuff happen. But they're in a case behind glass,
yeah.
and they're good. They're
I,
good in
I,
there.
I have I have pieces of that plane crash. They're small pieces, but we were just ran into this guy who came to one of our presentations, and I've got these because they were trying to reassemble the plane to find out what had happened, why it had crashed, and he was in a hangar. He got some of the pieces, had some paranormal activity. Okay, I'm going to give these away to people that might know what to do with them. So we have those here,
Oh wow.
which have been blessed and put in a safe space. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean having things like that is like I have a bayonet upstairs. And it's been stamped so many times. I have to take it somewhere to have somebody look at it and tell me exactly. I want to know its story.
yeah,
You know, that's the things I love the most about stuff like that. I mean, I have it hanging up, but you can tell this thing's been in someone,
yeah,
like, or many people, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
it's been stamped. It's got a wooden handle, and that's been like, there's like a crown carved out of that, and
Oh
just
my
all kinds of,
gosh!
it's so, yeah, there's Chinese symbols on there. There's all kinds of
Wow.
stuff. I know. And it's a bayonet. I don't know anything about it. And
Yeah.
I have a I have a Civil War certificate mustering a lieutenant into the Civil War in 1863. I have it hanging up. So I have like a lot of stuff. I even feel bad having some of the stuff. Like I feel like I wish like a New Jersey museum or something like that would take it. But then again,
Yeah.
it's one of my most like I love it. I love
Yeah.
having it. I'm taking
It
care of
sounds ridiculous, but I mean, have you ever like slept with it and kind of like saw what happened in your dream time?
it. No, I didn't. I
Yeah.
never thought about that.
Yeah, that might be something you might try just to see sometime if you're
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, I mean, I am. I want to know. I just have to find the right. I mean, I put stuff up on Facebook about it and stuff, like trying to ask people if they knew anything, if they had any knowledge into stuff like that, but never got anywhere with it.
Yeah.
So I have to take it somewhere, somebody, you know what I mean, that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it ended up with you for a reason, not just because you like it.
I know.
Everything happens for a reason. So,
I
for all
know.
you know, maybe in a previous incarnation, this was something you owned or knew someone that owned this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, there's the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
you know. And the thing is I'll, probably 95% of the items I have were given to me.
Yeah.
I didn't pay for these things, which if I did, I wouldn't feel comfortable buying stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, so they were, I mean, I'm thankful that they were given to me, but now I want to know their story.
Yep. Mhm.
Um, the Civil War certificate I had to pay, shocker, the state of New Jersey to get his records.
Wow.
Um, but he was a prisoner of war.
Mhm.
And he's from North Jersey, and I found out where he was married, where he died, what he died of, how he was a prisoner of war and all kinds of stuff. I went on Ancestry and I tried to locate family, because I was
Mhm.
like, if anything, family should have this,
Yeah.
right? Nobody ever stepped forward.
Mhm.
Nobody ever contacted me. So now he sticks with me. He stays with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. I would definitely ask and monitor your dream time, you know?
I know. I should write down. I have some really vivid, adventurous, crazy dreams.
Yeah.
But a lot are centered around animals and stuff though too.
Yeah. That could be your next book.
I know, right? It's like crazy. Like I just had a dream the other night. I said to my boyfriend, we were at a pool. It was an in-ground indoor pool, and we had our dog with us. And I looked down. There was this little brown, like Yorkie looking like dog, and I saw like a huge snake coming out of the pool.
Yeah.
And my first instinct was to save the dogs. I thought the snake was going after the dogs.
Mhm.
And I was trying to hold my dog and trying to hold this little dog. And the weight of the dog that was my dog in my dream felt like the real weight of my dog.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm trying to pick this little baby Yorkie up that weighs like 1 pound. But because he was like so heavy and I'm trying to hold him, I was trying so hard to get this before the snake came. And I woke up before the snake came. In my head, I think I saved the Yorkie.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, a lot of times it's like a totem. Like, I remember maybe 10 years back, I was at the store and this girl came in and she was just petrified because she was getting married and she kept dreaming of a black spider. And she was so convinced that, she was cursed. Her wedding was going to, she wasn't going to get the dress she wanted. She wasn't going to get the site that she wanted, like all these things. She was so afraid. She couldn't stop dreaming about this spider. And for us, like spiders are very sacred, which is funny because I'm afraid of spiders. I'm arachnophobic.
Wow.
But, grandmother's spider spins this web, which represents like all of the universe and how we're all interwoven, everything that's alive. And even everything that has died, it's not really dead. Everything lives, every soul is alive. So she kept dreaming of this spider. And I was like, well, for me, it was totally obvious. It's like, think about it. What is that spider doing? She's like, it's just got it's this web. And I was like, well, what is your dress made out of? She's like, well, it's silk. This dress I want is silk. It's like it's building your dress. The spider is building your dress. If you just open up to that totem.
Positive side of it.
So when she dismissed that fear, and it's like, okay, this spider's building my dress, with this silk. She got the dress just like that. She got the site she wanted like that. Like everything opened when she was able to move that fear to the point where when she got married, she had this little diamond spider brooch on her wedding dress.
Oh, cute.
So,
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
See, and that's what people like, and that's what I try to tell everybody, because like that's why I won't kill anything, because because like, and I always make a joke about it because one of my best friends, he's Hindu, so I'm always like, what if you're like that fly coming back? Like, what if that's you coming back as a fly? Do you want somebody just to push you?
Yeah.
Like, of course, everybody has an answer because nobody is like as sensitive to me about anything like that. I mean, I'm even like that with plants. Like I as much as I hate having live plants because they're such a big responsibility.
Yeah.
I can't let them die. I won't, you know what I mean? Like I take care of them. I talk to them. I like water them out all the time. And, I'm like, I hate this, but I'm like, I'm spraying it with water. I'm like, well, listen, I'm sorry. Don't take it personal. It's just, this is a responsibility.
Yeah.
I said half of my friends would think I was batshit if there was like a camera watching me all the time.
Yeah.
They'd be like, wow, okay. But I want to say thank you so much for joining
You're
me
welcome.
this
You're
evening.
so welcome.
Please, um, plug. Like, tell everybody, your books, when your shows come in, like where to find you, any upcoming events you got going on.
Yeah, so like the bulk of the shows I've been on, you can see on Discovery Plus or Travel Channel, Paranormal 911, Paranormal Nightshift, Scariest Night of My Life, Most Terrifying Place in America, My Ghost Story. Obviously, we're waiting for Haunted Hospital Season 4 to premiere here in the States. If you're on Canada, you can find it on T plus E. My website is thespiritchasers.com. And so you can keep abreast of the different events, everything that's going on. I've got a book signing coming up later this month for people living here in Colorado Springs. And then, of course, my latest book is Selfies From The Underworld, a Native American's Record of the Supernatural, which you can find on Amazon, Celebration, Tattered Cover, Poor Richards. Just go on Amazon and get it.
Yeah, Wes is, saying it's a great book. He said he read it and it's great.
Thanks, Wes. Well, I was so embarrassed. Like one of the most embarrassing things to ever happen to me was I had the book proofread. I put it through like this proofreading software, and because I used so many Native American words in it, it auto-corrected everything. So
Oh
just
my
the book was just soup. So like the first draft that went out of my book was all like misspellings. I sent out like the wrong edit. I was so
God.
fortunately I published through Amazon KDP, so I was able to correct those things.
Oh,
But I
good.
think Wes got one that said, yeah, there were some corrections that were needed in his, but Wes is amazing. I mean,
Oh yeah,
that's
I
one
love
thing I
Wes.
love
He's
being in
like one of my favorites.
this field is that there's just so many people that are just searching.
Yeah,
Just so
yeah.
many thinkers. So
And
many
when
people
and
that are.
when and when people are in it for the right reasons,
Yeah, yeah,
when they have the right intentions, when they have the passion, and,
yes,
you know, those are the people that make the differences and can come together and can work together, and,
yeah,
there's none of that drama, there's none of that,
yeah,
whatever, because y'all have we all have that, um we're all like-minded and we all have those same goals. We're all headed in the same direction, you know? Um, did you ever hear of, Don Molnar, Haunted MD?
is he the one? Yeah, I think so.
I was gonna say, like, you guys would be cool to work with together, the haunted hospital, because he works in a hospital, and I had him
Yeah.
on a couple of times, and he talks about some of the experiences he had.
Hmm.
He's a physician in the
Yeah.
ER, or works like, and, he has had I mean, he has had people code, he's had people, this and that, and he was a very interesting guest I had on, but he's had experiences, you know, right when people have coded, like, felt like
Yes.
something brushed through him, and you know what I mean? So, that's why I was also interested, because, I love his stories about him working in the hospital,
Oh, yeah.
and just when you go to the hospitals, do you find that the physicians do they talk to you guys and stuff like that, and the nurses and stuff?
You never know unless you ask. And
Yeah,
a lot of times it's more yes than a no. You never know unless you ask.
that's
But you
true.
have to just let go of that nervousness, that like whatever it's. There's just like people like him, or people like one of my co-stars, Richard Estep,
Yeah.
who has similar experiences. It's just, I could listen to them for hours. I come from a tribe of, storytellers. I mean, I guess we
Mhm.
all do. And that just sharing that, just that gift of story is just so important. But
Yeah.
that's why I love, like when I do haunted hospitals or paranormal night shift, whatever it is, I'm giving all these case files that I'm expected to learn and comment on, add my own, spin on it. But the people, when I run into them later, and hearing their story face to face, is just makes it so much more alive. And I look at it as an observer, so it's just, again, that emotional connection to that person having this experience. A lot of these people have no background with the spirit world or paranormal or any of these things. They go into it cold, so they don't know what to make of these experiences. So I really do enjoy interacting with people in that realm, and I think
Right.
that's why, like, the acknowledgments in my book run for 2 pages, because there's just so many amazing people that I've met in this field. So
That's
bless
awesome.
all of you for watching, for supporting. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
absolutely, and I am going to get that book. I totally
Oh,
wanna.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it. I'm in the middle of reading Mark Nesbitt's new book, but as soon as I'm going to get your book, and I definitely will read it for sure. And we got to get you out to the bash.
That sounds just amazing. Like I've known so many people have had experience. You're talking about Devil's Den. I've seen a lot of interesting pictures taken there at Devil's Den.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can, you know,
Yeah. I'd be interesting. It would be interesting to walk around with you around there just to see
yeah,
what you picked up, um, um, especially like on the Native American side too,
yeah,
because I feel like the stories before Civil War just got lost there,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and they shouldn't be. Like there should still be that acknowledgement,
mhm,
of what happened prior to the Civil War.
yeah,
Obviously they put Gettysburg on the map, but prior to that, there is a history. It just didn't
yes,
start in 1863, July 1st,
yeah,
2nd, and 3rd,
exactly, exactly.
So I would love to run amok with you through Gettysburg and
Oh my
see.
gosh, I would have such a blast.
It'd be awesome for sure. Chris, I thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
And
Thank
I
you
hope
so
this
much.
isn't your last time. We got to get
Oh,
you on
thank
again.
you. No, this
Yeah,
was
I
an
would
honor
love that.
on your show. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for
And
coming.
thank you
Thanks,
to
Wes.
everyone watching.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Wes, for the introduction. And it was such a pleasure. And I'm so happy to call you my friend now.
Thank you.
I
Yes.
definitely you need anything, you know where I'm at. So,
Thank you. Same
um,
here.
yes. I love you. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing
Blessings
all
to
your
you.
stories and your knowledge and education. And I learned some stuff tonight, so I appreciate it.
Well, I learned some stuff from you too, so thank you.
Yes, thank
That's what
you.
we're here for. All
Yeah, absolutely. I will see you later.
right.
Thank
Blessings,
you.
everyone. Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, guys. That was awesome. Awesome show. Thank you for joining me on a Sunday night. Um, this Wednesday, I have Jody Marie Pilla coming on, Wings of Intuition, a very gifted, talented medium, psychic medium. And I hope you guys join me for that. Looking forward to that. Until next time, um, everybody, I love y'all.